Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Life Show. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz. It is a great day to be great. And depending on when you're listening to this, it might be time to watch a freaking football game tonight. We are so back. Reports actually say we have never been more back. So very excited about that, but also very excited about today's show. We got none other than the one, the only, the godfather of fantasy football, Matthew Berry, on to talk about who he thinks could potentially be on the cover of week 2 waiver wire articles. Also plenty of goodness with my two friends and coworkers here over at Team Fantasy Life. We got Cooterdoodle and Jake Crazy Legs Trowbridge in the house to break down all sorts of cool stuff, guys. We're going to be talking about a fantasy football genie. We're getting excited for week 1 with some of our favorite things and going through some injury updates that will be impacting fantasy lineups. So, Cooter, you were actually saying before the show that you've been having to help out some new friends in fantasy football, little $5 home league. Wait till you start getting asked about the IR and some of these injury updates. I really do envy you for going out on a limb here.
You know, it kind of makes you feel like a god looking down, just like, oh, let me show you the way, you know?
You got asked before, Cooter, about how to add a defense, right? That's where we're at?
Oh, that's where we're at. How do I pick up a player? How do I drop a player? And I held their hand through it. I sent screenshots and, by week 4, hopefully we'll be there where they're at least baseline can function in the app.
Hey, we've all been there. Jake, there's no shame in fantasy football experience, no shaming experience, and no shame in the amount of leagues you're in, right?
Everybody's got to start somewhere. And yeah, I mean, the number one rule of fantasy football is don't you dare ask somebody how many leagues that they're in. But, if your league mate, Scooter, can execute a trade at some point during the season, it's going to be wheels all the way up on that league.
Oh, you're so right. I cannot wait.
This is exciting. We got Cooter's $5 league going in. I got to draft my 32-team league last weekend. Jake's and all sorts of dynasty goodness. Again, fantasy football and real-life football, obviously. So back, and we cannot wait. That said, guys, we do have some running back news to be breaking down. It is time for our DraftKings opening lines. We already have a front runner for one of the best quotes of the 2025 season regarding Dolphins RB2 Ollie Gordon. Per head coach Mike McDaniel, guys, his expectations on Ollie Gordon, he'll have 0 plays or all the plays, 0 yards or all the yards, or somewhere in between. Jake, how are we adjusting the ranks?
We're adjusting to Mike Daniel being a troll for like the last 3 years straight. And at least he has good sense of humor about it, and that's fine. But man, can you just give us a straight answer for this? Honestly, I don't know that we need Mike McDaniel to come out and say too much, because if you can read between the tea leaves with Devin Achane and his injury, obviously everybody else in that backfield is injured. It's kind of going to have to be the start of Ollie's season, right? I mean, if I'm projecting, I'm saying at least 10 touches at a minimum for this dude. It wouldn't shock me if there is more, though, in week 1 to keep Achane healthy.
I would like to think, given that it's week 1, you obviously didn't exactly draft Ollie Gordon planning to start him. Hopefully you don't need to. That said, I'm with you, man. He's my RB41, Dwayne's RB43. Freeman, the wet blanket that he is, a little bit lower RB53. But again, given the fact that Achane not going to be this 30 touch per game guy or anything, would expect to see some Ollie Gordon and a reasonable enough matchup there against the Colts. Cooter, though, with McDaniel, I mean, this is one of many great quotes he's given us recently. He actually had a press conference earlier in August, was, told good morning. He said, no, it's a great morning. And then when pressed about why it was a great morning, he said, we're another day closer to death. So thoughts on McDaniel and the overall vibes kind of going on in Miami right now, Cooter?
You know what? If you're looking to him to figure out if you should roster Gordon, you don't deserve Gordon. That's how I feel. So I just got a text from a home league buddy because I have Gordon. I don't know if you follow me on Twitter, but if you do, you saw on like the 18th of August, I dropped Jalen Wright for Gordon just kind of at a whim before the injury news.
Sure.
And I got a text that said, give me Ollie. I want to play the Mike McDaniel lottery. And I said, you'll have to pry him out of my cold, dead hands. So that's where I landed.
Cooterdoodle. Always on top of the waiver wire. Again, guys, I would be starting Ollie ahead of guys like Braden Allen, Damian Pierce, Rashad White, Rico Dowdle. Really do, again, hope that you have better solutions than that out there. Another big, I would say more important RB news update revolves around the Washington Commanders. Bill Krosky-Merritt, number 4 on the unofficial depth chart that some unpaid intern probably put together. Number 2 in terms of his alignment in practice in their running back drills. So Austin Eckler, Bill Krosky-Merritt, Jerry McNichols, and then in 4th, Chris Rodriguez. Jake, I am so sick sick and tired of unofficial depth charts being shoved down our collective throats over there on the old Twitter sphere. It just seems like a situation where we all understand they're ridiculous, but that doesn't stop people from still bringing them up anyway. I tend to think that, yeah, the order they go in practice is a bit more important. What say you, Mr. Trowbridge?
I think just the fact that this is all we have, the depth chart is all that we have, that is out there on paper, digital paper for people to look at. I think it's a good opportunity for us to take advantage of those folks who treat it as gospel, though. So if somebody's freaking out who drafted Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, going, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake, you go ahead and send them a trade. Send them a trade right now because, yeah, I much prefer going based off of what actually happens in practices more than what happens on some silly depth chart that won't mean anything come week 1.5.
Cooter, home league roster for you. Would you rather roster Bill Crosky-Merritt or Austin Eckler this season?
Oh, man. I feel like Eckler's going to have his share. He's going to have a good time, but I love rooting for the guy that everyone's sleeping on or that, just has that hype in the offseason. So I want Bill on my team just so I can, shove him in the lineup in like week 8.
I'm leaning Bill right now myself. I have him as RB34 this week, Eckler RB36. But again, I think that discrepancy reflects the reality. These guys are very close and honestly could just look similar to last year where in games where Washington's able to build a lead, get ahead, probably could be more Bill Crosky-Merritt and honestly Chris Rodriguez as well in early downs on the rare occasions where they are going to be trailing though. That's when we see Austin Eckler being used more often on passing downs. Not that he can't run the ball, but again, just seemingly that was the way they were using the running backs under Cliff Kingsbury. Of course, though, we can't have fully nice, clean committee backfields because Deebo Samuel is going to be getting involved as well, as we know in Washington. So good stuff there, guys. Now, speaking of some of those waiver wire potential options, we have the great Matthew Berry coming on to talk about our potential favorites to be on the cover of week 2 waiver wire articles. First, though, a quick word to our friends over at DraftKings. Everybody, NFL Week 1 is here, and I am teaming up with DraftKings Pick 6 to give you a shot at their biggest bag ever. Right now, all DraftKings Pick 6 customers can enter for free, hit your 6 picks, and just like that, you can land your share of $1 million or more in cash prizes. Here's the play. Pick more or less on 6 stats. Share it with your crew because more entries means a bigger bag. And if you nail all 6, you are in for a cut of the cash. Head on over to the DraftKings Pick 6 app, and let's build the bag together. The crown is yours. And now, everybody, it is time for a good question, I would say. Who will be on the cover of not week 1, but week 2 waiver wire articles brought to you by Xfinity, introducing the 5-year price guarantee. One consistent internet price for the next 5 years guaranteed. And what better man to talk about than the godfather of fantasy football himself, the one, the only Matthew Berry. Matthew, so great to talk to you, my friend. And yeah, in your opinion, who will be the man on the cover of week 2 waiver wire articles?
Hey, Ian, it's great to talk to you. First off, it'll be somebody completely random and obscure. It's going to be some guy, that we haven't even thought about that scores 2 touchdowns, right? But I'll give you a couple of guys that just off the top of my head. I will tell you this, and I've said this on my show on Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I've said this on my show quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. People are going to be annoyed, confused, dismayed, and angry when they realize how much Kenneth Gainwell and Jonnu Smith are going to play in this Steelers offense under Arthur Smith. They'll be like, where's my Jalen Warren touches? Well, where's my DK Metcalf stuff? And listen, DK Metcalf and Jalen Warren are going to get their touches. But I'm telling you, Kenneth Gainwell and Jonnu Smith are both going to be a heavy part of the Steelers offense. Now, they're playing the Jets, so I don't think we expect a ton of points, but I think both guys are going to be used a lot more than people expect. And so I suspect both will be at least mentioned in week 2 waiver wire articles.
Wouldn't it be the most Arthur Smith thing ever to actually feature the tight end that he just dragged out of Miami to get back to Pittsburgh? Certainly could see again 7-8 targets for Jonnu. And to Jonnu's credit, I mean, it is one of those things, Matthew, where obviously Jonnu helped so many people last year with that top 5 finish, being this late round tight end, with being a yak monster, made the most out of limited opportunities, kind of sort of set up for the same thing there in Pittsburgh. So I like that call. What do you think about 2 guys who, again, I'm reaching a little bit here on them qualifying, but still available in, over 65% of ESPN leagues, Ollie Gordon and Dylan Sampson? Either of these guys you trying to prioritize on your bench right now?
For sure. I mean, we'll start with Ollie Gordon. I think obviously with Jalen Wright's injury, and Ollie Gordon's had an unbelievable camp. So I think he has a role immediately as kind of spelling Devon Achane. They don't want him touching the ball a ton. And then obviously there's tremendous upside should anything happen to Achane. So I agree with you. Ollie Gordon is a priority this week, not only next week. But you mentioned Dylan Sampson. We're still trying to figure out this. Anytime you get clarity, right? And I think so. Week 2 waiver wire articles are going to be all about clarity, and one of which is the Cleveland running back room, right? I think it's going to be Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford. But thinking about this Cincinnati Bengals defense, not that great. They're also, by the way, not great against pass catching running backs. So I could see both Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford being on popular waiver wire articles because the actual team total on that's pretty good. And the Bengals defense isn't good, but the Bengals offense is awesome. So I think they're going to be scoring quite a bit. And so I do think the Browns under Joe Flacco, slinging Joe Flacco, will be in scoring position a decent amount just because I just think this Bengals offense is not great. There's also a couple of more running back rooms that we're seeking clarity on, Ian. So I suspect the waiver wire articles would talk about whoever the Texans lead running back is. Is it Nick Chubb? We've heard some Damian Pierce buzz. Woody Marks is an impressive young rookie that's had some nice moments in camp. So I think when we get some clarity in Houston as to who that running back is, because none of them are 100% rostered in league. So I do think when we get some clarity there, and also, by the way, Ian, I wouldn't mind taking a stab in Dallas. Like, it feels like people are just leaving the Cowboys for dead, that running back room. And I get it. There's not, Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue has been banged up. Miles Sanders, is if ever there was a player that was less sexy than Javonte Williams, it's Miles Sanders. And yet, Ian, one of these guys is going to be the lead running back for the Dallas Cowboys.
And I feel like this offense is now setting up to be basically the NFC's version of the Bengals. And as you just talked about, lots of points scored, lots of points against, and we'll take that 8 days of the week in the fantasy world. So I love the Jaden Blue shout. He actually is not listed on the initial injury report for this week, which is great because it certainly seemed like some of the Twitter doctors were telling us could be the high ankle sprain variety, if you will. So he's looking healthy, still available for, only roster, I should say, in 43% of ESPN leagues, 37% of Yahoo leagues. But I'm with you, Matthew. It's one of these things where in Jacksonville and Houston, we've been waiting for someone to emerge. And that's why everyone's so cheap. We have this uncertainty surrounding everyone. And Dallas, everything we're hearing is this Javonte Williams, and the fantasy community has kind of accepted that and still said, we don't care. This guy's an RB4 in our hearts. I mean, hey, week 1 against Philly, that's not going to be the easiest, running and everything. But man, we've seen bad running backs ride great volume to fantasy heights before. I mean, what if Javonte Williams doesn't completely suck, Matthew? What a crazy question to be asking.
Yeah, what if he doesn't? Or more important, I think there's an opportunity there. What if Jaden Blue is as advertised? I could see a scenario, Ian, where Javonte Williams struggles against the Philadelphia Eagles because, honestly, who doesn't? But then Jaden Blue, maybe even later in the game, breaks a long one, right? Because he does have kind of that electric speed. And then all of a sudden, everyone's all into Jaden Blue, including potentially the Cowboys. We've seen this before. So I don't mind taking a stab at Javonte Williams. And I certainly think that there's some upside potentially with Jaden Blue.
Last one I'll throw you because I want your thoughts is, this Rams situation going on. Kyren Williams got the extension recently, and you talk about workhorse running backs. I know Saquon's kind of been the guy we talk about getting all those touches, which is true, but Kyren nearly pushed for 400 himself. There's been a little bit of back and forth, though, depending on how you feel about the Sean McVay coach speak this offseason cycle. We actually had their OC, Mike LaFleur, say recently that he wanted to get Blake Corum more involved as a 1-2 punch for Kyren. Again, similar sentiment from last year. Everyone's expecting Kyren to be the lead back. He will be, but Blake Corum, someone where Matthew, again, if we can get clarification that no standalone value, but if he is the clear-cut RB2 in Los Angeles, man, that looks like one of the better handcuff roles out there.
There's no question about it. It's just, listen, Sean McVay, people forget, Kyren Williams was who's Kyren Williams a couple of years ago? If you can get an opportunity to be the lead running back for Sean McVay, I don't care who you are, fantasy goodness happens. And he's not scared. Talk about some YOLO. He's run Ronnie Rivers out there. He's dusted off Royce Freeman. He's dusted off Royce Freeman and said, you get out there. We've seen some obscure guys out there playing lead running back for the Los Angeles Rams. So somebody that he's drafted that has high draft equity behind, again, if something were to happen to Kyren Williams and he has missed time each of the last couple of years, I'm with you, Ian.
A lot of positive names. Real quick, though, Matthew, I wonder if we could maybe go the opposite route. Someone who's going to have a good week one, get featured a lot, and then bust. Because let's face it, last year there was Isaiah Likely and Alan Lazard. I like to call this the Kevin Ogletree Award because way back in like 2012 or something like that, the Cowboys number 3 receiver goes off on Sunday Night Football. Everyone picks him up and does nothing the rest of the year. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Kyle Pitts will be this year's Kevin Ogletree Award winner. Goes off, pulls the entire fantasy community right back in, and then proceeds to do Kyle Pitts things the rest of the way. Anyone that you got a feeling could maybe have a good week one and then bust the rest of the way?
Ooh, that's a good call. Maybe Michael Pittman. I'm all in on Tyler Warren and Josh Downs this year, but I could see Pittman having like I think that game's going to be a sneaky shootout, Dolphins Colts. And so I could see Pittman having, a really nice game, veteran wide receiver with Daniel Jones, and then everyone's saying like, oh yeah, we forgot about Michael Pittman. He's awesome. This is the guy that was the top 20 wide receiver for a while. And then we all rush. But I'm telling you, I think it's Tyler Warren and Josh Downs. That's who you're going to want at the end of the year on the Colts.
Great call. I mean, again, I've been kind of balking at the idea that Daniel Jones is some sort of stabilizing force. I understand relative to Anthony Richardson, you can say he's better, but again, just a situation where I don't believe in Jones, but against that Dolphins secondary where things are looking rough, Michael Pittman, great call for this year's Kevin Ogletree Award.
I got 2 others for you that I could see that maybe not as Kevin Ogletree is strong, but what I could see Adam Thielen having a big week one, but then by the time that Jalen Naylor gets healthy and Jordan Addison comes off the suspension, and obviously Jefferson and Hawkinson are going to get theirs. He's an older player. I could see Thielen having a big week one and then sort of fading down. It's not fair to call him Ogletree because he's had an unbelievable NFL career, Adam Thielen, but that's somebody that I could see peaking sort of at week one and then heading down. The other one I'll give you is Hollywood Brown, who's fully healthy. And again, Rashee Rice is going to miss 6 games. I'm of the belief that Patrick Mahomes goes scorched earth this year, that he's heard all the talk, an embarrassing Super Bowl. And so he's done like, yo, Andy, we're not running the ball and playing cutesy good defense and try to squeak out games. I'm going scorched. I'm going back to being 15, gunslinging it. We got Worthy running a full route tree now. Travis Kelce he's now engaged. Probably it's his last year in the NFL. We're going all in. And so I could see Hollywood Brown having a big week one, but then also tailing off because ultimately it's going to be Kelce, Rice, and Worthy when everything is all settled in Kansas City.
And we have heard from Andy Reid, Hollywood Brown on track to suit up Friday night in Brazil. Meanwhile, rookie Jalen Royal is someone who was expected to actually take a lot of those lower underneath routes from Rashee Rice. He is dealing with a knee problem and tentatively not expecting to suit up. So week one, Xavier Worthy, Marquise Brown, maybe even some Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm with Matthew, again, leaning more so towards the Hollywood side of things. But I would say Thielen and Hollywood, Matthew, those are the sort of kind of boring veteran sort of players that, hey, maybe can get you over the chop line week one in guillotine leagues too.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, I think there's a safety there that, but not someone that I would want to count on long term. But I don't mind those guys as pickups right now if you need some depth or for some reason a quick spot start in week one.
Great stuff from Matthew. Thank you, my man. And make sure you guys check out our actual Week 2 waiver wire article at fantasylife.com. The great Kendall Valenzuela will be penning that here on Sunday evening. So thank you all. This has been, again, brought to you by Xfinity, introducing the 5-year price guarantee. One consistent internet price for the next 5 years, guaranteed. You can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. That's right, football fans. Watch your local NFL game live every single Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Yeah. Football live, CBS, Paramount Plus. How could that not be awesome? And this year's schedule is absolutely stacked with rivalries and revenge games, including the next chapter of the epic Bills-Chiefs saga. So stay connected to it on any device at home or on the go. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today and count on Sundays for another must-see season of the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. fun stuff from the godfather of fantasy football himself. But now back to me, Jake and Cooter. Just a slight little drop off right there. Guys, I have a fun question for us here. I wanted to ask the fantasy football genie a few questions, okay? Because we spent all off season long wondering what's exactly going to be happening throughout these, backfields, depth charts, everything, all the above. And accordingly, we have all these situations where we had to set kind of a weird ADP because of all the outstanding questions at hand. So now we're going to rub the, genie lamp, whatever, it happens to be in this case, get a chance to find out what is actually going to be happening this weekend, and then hopefully be able to, again, adjust those lineups accordingly. So, Cooter, first for you, what would you be asking the fantasy football genie?
Look, Barry kind of just touched upon it. He mentioned Kenneth Gainwell a little bit, but I need to know, what's Caleb Johnson's role? Is he going to have a legit role in this Pittsburgh rushing game? Here's what we know, Ian. So he was drafted in the 3rd round. We know that the unofficial draft chart that we just warned everyone about says he's behind Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell. We know that Jaylen Warren just got signed to a 2-year extension, right? So there's all this bumbling of what's going to happen there. My biggest fear here is that it's Arthur Smith that's at the helm. You know what I mean? Like, he's picking what's going to be happening in this backfield. We know we've seen in the past where Bijan Robinson doesn't get the ball at the goal line and Tyler Algier gets it, and then he doesn't get the touchdown, and he gets the ball again and he doesn't get the touchdown. So here's where I'm at. I've looked at it. Mike Kennedy said that no running back had more missed tackles this preseason than the Steelers rookie, Caleb Johnson. That made me excited. You look at 2024, where Najee Harris had 54% of the rush attempts. Jaylen Warren had 27% of the rush attempts. So I feel in my heart of hearts like I can't let him go just because of this depth chart issue, just because of the fact that Mike Tomlin is saying, Jaylen Warren has been very evident and he's been congratulated and he's going to be our featured runner. And we don't know what you're going to see of Caleb Johnson and Kenneth Gainwell. Well, you know what I'm going to see? I'm going to see Caleb Johnson on my bench just for a little while until I think he surpasses Gainwell. I know Barry said Gainwell is going to surprise us, and I think that's true for the beginning of the season, but I'm excited for Caleb Johnson. I think it just might take a little time.
And Jake, it does seem like that Kenneth Gainwell part of the equation is what we really need to find out more than anything. I'd be very surprised if Caleb isn't going to be involved. And as things stand right now, it is going to be a situation where Jaylen Warren probably will be getting that first touch and maybe being able to lead the backfield in terms of snaps played. But last 3 seasons, again, even with Jaylen Warren going out there and doing his thing, Najee Harris managed 313, 284, and 299 touches. Jake, how mad do you think we're going to be about Arthur Smith's usage come Monday?
Always. We're always going to be mad about Arthur Smith. There's no escaping Arthur Smith. And now that you're pairing him up with Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be so frustrating because that dude requires like 8 straight weeks of almost impeccable play before he trusts anybody who wasn't alive when Lord of the Rings was released. So I think that we're going to have to take some time, as Cooter's saying, with Caleb. So yeah, this is probably where the Gainwell games are going to start. Maybe 3 to 4 weeks, hopefully. That's what I'm hoping for with Caleb Johnson. But yeah, you're probably not going to be satisfied plugging him into your lineup right away.
Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, again, several of these backfields, even Isaiah Pacheco with the Chiefs, where we just aren't quite sure what it's going to be. Could have some major changes, though, in those week 2 rankings as soon as we do find out just that. Jake, you do not want to ask the genie about a backfield, though, however. You're actually wondering about a rookie tight end.
I'm going with the tight ends because there's one guy that's been on the fringes of being drafted in almost every single league, but I don't know that anybody really wants to start him in week 1. That is Colston Loveland of the Bears. We know that the talent profile is there. He's the 4th all-time tight end in Dwayne McFarland's rookie supermodel. He's an incredible route runner for a dude of his size, and he should leapfrog Cole Kmet, at least at some point, because he's an okay tight end, but he's certainly not a stud, Kmet. But we've seen that play out differently before, just a couple years ago when Dalton Kincaid was expected to come in swinging, and he was supposed to leapfrog right over Dawson Knox, and that didn't really happen, and honestly still hasn't fully happened. Now, granted, Loveland profiles as a better prospect, a more pro-ready tight end than Kincaid was, but there's no guarantees, so I want to see Loveland hopefully hit that 60% of the routes mark. I want to see him hit that 20% targets per route run mark. That would show us that at least A, he's out there, and B, is more than just being the pass blocking tight end in this offense.
Again, we're hoping that Ben Johnson's voodoo magic is going to make Caleb Williams a much more efficient passer. So God forbid Colson Loveland is splitting a lot of snaps early. That would be a no-go for being able to trust, again, the top 10 overall pick sooner rather than later in our starting lineups. That said, Cooter, I mean, it is a situation where as much as we like to say, oh, it's Cole Kmet, who cares? He's one of 7 tight ends in the league on a $50 million plus contract right now, okay? And I understand Ben Johnson wasn't around when they signed that, but we also did have the reports where Ben Johnson basically had this vision for how he wanted to use both of them. I think they even mentioned him calling Cole Kmet right there after the draft. So do you kind of get Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox vibes here, Cooter, or do you just think Loveland's in like a different stratosphere of talent compared to someone like Kincaid?
I mean, yes, talent-wise, he is in a different stratosphere. The thing that we do know, Cole Kmet had like 8% of end zone targets in 2024. Sam Laporta with Ben Johnson had 30% end zone targets in 2024. So we know the tight end position is going to be more valuable on the Bears this year. The question is who. I have to just go back to my good friend Jeff Bell, who said it perfectly. He said, I'm mentally preparing myself for the 5 times that I get excited for that Colston Loveland touchdown when it turns out to be Cole Kmet. And I think that's going to happen at least in the beginning of the season, where we get really excited. We think it's him and it's Cole Kmet. And I mean, either way, at least they'll get some catches. You look back at Cole Kmet last season, he was only getting 4.3 fantasy points per game. I'll be happy if either of them have a boost with Ben Johnson. I just don't think it's going to be week 1 for Colston Loveland.
This is a situation where Cole Kmet is running number 85. Colson Loveland is number 84. Jake, is this going to be Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert all over again, man, where I'm cheering for the wrong guy? Because that might be one of the most heartbreaking happenings that a fantasy manager can have.
Yeah, it's going to lead to a lot of meltdowns in your league chat. I'll tell you that, especially if you are one of the people or somebody in your league is the person who's actually starting Loveland. Ian, I will say I only noticed one person ranking Colston Loveland as an outright starter this week. And that was you. You had him at 12. Everybody else outside of it. So I am hoping that we all get a little more of your view on Colston Loveland than everybody else's who has him further down.
Bunch of cowards out there in those alleged expert ranks over at fantasylife.com, if you ask me. I'm going to close this out, guys, with our fantasy football genie. I would like to know, what level is Blake Corum actually going to be involved in? Is he the actual clear-cut RB2 for the Rams? Because it's a situation where Kyren Williams, as much as we love talking about Saquon Barkley's massive workload last year, I mean, Kyren almost racked up 400 touches himself. Then he got extended. Yet, along the way, we had Sean McVay and Les Snead saying all these sweet happenings, in the ear of Jarquez Hunter after the draft. And we also honestly had a quote from Mike LaFleur recently, their offensive coordinator, by the way, about Blake Corum. He basically said it benefits everyone to make sure that you're not just wearing someone down. And, they basically was saying they should be divvying touches up a bit more evenly between Corum and Kyren. So again, it's a situation where I feel like McVay and Snead and these guys have talked about the opportunity to split touches more and more over the years. Last year, when they drafted Blake Corum in the first place, McVay was quoted as saying they consider them 1A, 1B, very complimentary, and honestly, like basically just similar types of running backs. So again, if we can find out that Blake Corum is not only the clear-cut RB2, but also someone who actually could have some semblance of standalone value, 10, 12 touches per game, that would be huge for a guy who, again, isn't even owned on over 10% of rosters on ESPN and Yahoo right now. So again, talked to Matthew already about the potential week 2 waiver wire candidates, and I do think Blake Corum deserves to be on that. But on the other side of things, maybe Jarquez Hunter is splitting things up there. This could go a lot of different directions, but as we've seen, Cooter, I mean, from Todd Gurley to CJ Anderson, Malcolm Brown was a fantasy relevant running back for a few weeks there. Like Cam Akers, okay, Darrell Henderson, the list goes on and on. If you can figure out who is going to be Sean McVay's running back at any point in the season, fantasy points are going to follow. Might just be Blake Corum.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. At this point, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you look at last year, 58 rushing attempts for 207 yards. Nothing exciting, right? Then he had that preseason game, August 9th, I think it was against the Cowboys, where he got 2 touchdowns. That got us all rejuvenated and excited again, right? But Blake Corum is the stuff of like my nightmares. It keeps me up at night, Ian and Jake, because he's on my roster. He's on my bench next to guys like Caleb Johnson or Bashal Tutin. And I'm like, which one of you is going to be my savior? Which one of you is going to be the guy? And I just can't seem to let go. So I need the genie to just become more than just this talk that we're having here. Because I need to know, can I keep rostering this guy, or is he going to be something or not? And it's scary. Like I said, it keeps me up at night.
It is funny how these handcuffs go, Jake, because we spend all of, July and August filling these guys up in the later rounds of drafts. And again, I do think that is the right strategy, but we're a week or two away from finding out, okay, this wide receiver is actually playing a lot better than expected. Or look at this sleeper quarterback who's now on the waiver wire. And then all of a sudden looking at someone like Blake Corum clocking up your bench and maybe isn't as appealing as it was a month ago. So if we can again, I'm not expecting Kyron Williams starting bell cow job to go anywhere, but man, if it does go from 25 touches per game to 15 while Corum's getting more involved, this offense should be pretty darn good as long as Matthew Stafford's back cooperates. Maybe, just maybe, Michigan's all-time touchdown leader could be a thing at the NFL level.
I mean, that would be great. Yeah, Matthew Stafford, we didn't even touch on that, but we need old Popsicle back to stay upright throughout the season for both of these guys' sake. It is always interesting with the whole follow the money thing with running backs in this situation because, you just paid him. You want him to be your guy. There's no doubt that Kyron Williams is the Rams' back for the future. But how much of that future do you want to protect, right? How many touches do you want to take off because you made that investment into your running back? So it does create this a little bit of confusion about how many touches to expect. I will say, if Blake Corum gets, say, 5 to 8 touches in week 1, there's going to be so many impatient people who go for whoever that top waiver wire ad is going to be in week 2 and just say, see you later, Blake.
Questions. I'm excited to get some of these answered here, guys, sooner rather than later. Finally, football on the way. Guys, we are going to be talking about some of our favorite things ahead of week 1 accordingly. First, so a quick word to our friends over at Mike's Hard Lemonade. Mike's Hard Lemonade is partnering with Matthew Berry and Fantasy Life to give away weekly prizes all season long, including a trip to this year's big game. Prizes include Fantasy Life Plus subscriptions, gift cards to New Era, Homage, and Knockaround, TVs, soundbars, and again, 2 tickets to the big game. And not only have Fantasy Life and Mike's Hard partner for the sweepstakes, but we've also collaborated on a new 12-pack of exclusive flavors, including Hard Pink Pick 6, Hard Pineapple Rush, Hard Berry Blitz, and my personal favorite, Hard Apple Tackle. So go to www.mikeshard.com/sweepstakes/fantasy life today. Enter the sweepstakes and go find the Mike's Hard Fantasy Life 12-pack at a store near you. Reminders is 21 plus only. Premium malt beverage, Mike's Hard Lemonade Company, Chicago, Illinois. No purchase necessary to enter sweepstakes. See official rules at mikeshard.com/sweepstakes/fantasy life. Love me some Mike's Hard and love me some week 1, guys. This is a new segment we're going to be doing throughout the year. 3 downs, and then today's goal is to basically break down what we were most excited about ahead of week 1, presented by the fine folks over at GoPuff. So we're going to do a snake-style draft here. It is going to be between Cooter, Jake, and myself, basically trying to decide what are things that get us the most excited for week 1. So I believe we clarified it's going to be Cooterdoodle going first. So Cooter, you're on the clock.
Look, this is not going to be super unexpected, but what I'm looking most forward to is I will be in the Superdome on Sunday. I need that first Rashid Shaheed touchdown live and in person. And I'm going to be maybe I'll wear all 3 jerseys. Who knows? But that's what I'm looking forward to most is that touchdown, 60-yard, 70. We'll see.
80, 90, why stop there? And for those that did not know, you should be able to see it in her background, depending on the view. Cooter does, in fact, own 3 Rashid Shaheed jerseys, all signed by Mr. Shaheed himself. How cool is that, Cooter?
Oh, yeah. Great guy. Got to meet him in New Orleans whenever we were down there for the Super Bowl last year. And look, if the Saints are only going to win a couple of games, at least I can always have in my heart, just hope that he could score. You know what I mean? We can lose. That's fine. But at least he'll get a touchdown.
Are we stopping at 3? Is there a chance for more?
Oh, you know what? If I'm going to tell you right now, if I have a tall boy in hand and he scores on Sunday, that button's going to be easy to press.
Let's go. I love it. Jake, you are now on the clock. What is one of your favorite things about week 1?
I mean, I'm just going to go with the sound of the opening kickoff on Thursday Night Football. Is there a greater sound on this earth than the first time that ball gets booted in a real life football game? Besides, of course, the entirety of Hoobastank's music catalog. That is a greater sound. I will give you that. But otherwise, I just can't wait. I don't even want the announcers to be saying anything when it happens. I just want cold silence followed by the knock of that ball. And you know what? If the opening kickoff happens to be returned for a touchdown or some other wildly exciting play, I'll take that too, but I don't need it.
Obviously got the Cowboys and Eagles rolling. Personally, Cooter, I kind of prefer my Thursday night football to be bad. I miss the days of Titans, Jaguars, color rush, but it is the first game of the season. And to Jake's point, just football is back. And how can we not love, again, the first part of football being back, the kickoff?
It's so beautiful. And I think you're right, Jake. I attended a college game. I'm not usually a college girly, but I attended one last weekend and I got to hear the crack of like their uniforms and their pads hitting each other. And I was like, you know what, baby, football is back.
I am now on the clock. Back-to-back picks here. First up, the Manning cast. It's one of my favorite ways to watch football now, okay? Monday night, we're going to have the Vikings and Bears going on there. And just, again, no more Belichick because he's out getting, his butt kicked at UNC and everything like that. But just seeing Peyton Manning work so hard on the show and then getting the quips that Eli obviously throws in there time and time again really is hilarious to me. They always have some good guests on. I appreciate them kind of limiting the guests to 2 quarters because, again, just listening to those Manning brothers talk some ball really is fun for me. I mean, guys, Jake, Cooter, do you guys watch the Manning cast or do you guys stick with Aikman and Buck? Nothing against them, but Jake, which one do you prefer?
I'm a traditionalist, and it's not because it's a better product what I'm watching. It's just because, like, especially for week 1, I just want the pure tradition of it. And also, I'm just going to say it one time, Eli Manning, just that face. That face of Eli Manning. It is the doofiest face in all of football. All love to Eli, but it's just hard to concentrate on the game,
Spoken like a true Packers fan who had his soul crushed by Eli one too many times. Cooter, Manning cast or Buck Aikman?
I gotta go classic as well. Just something about the background noise of it all. It just feels natural. It's like playing Madden. You just need it in the background. I can't actually focus on the Mannings. I need the game and just the background noise.
Clearly, I reached on this one with you two, not even preferring to watch the Manning cast, period. But whatever. I think it was a good pick. Moving on to round 2. How about Fantasy Life's own Peter Overset covering the Brazil game on Friday night? I believe he said in our All Hands today it's going to be about 7:25 p.m. Eastern. But my goodness, guys, how cool is that? Pete obviously been such a grind in this industry for so many years, from Best Ball Breakfast to honestly the original days of the Mans and some of his, coins and stuff going on. Just again, love seeing hard work pay off and couldn't happen to a better guy. Look, Cooter, Peter Overset, we know him. He's going to be on the TV in freaking Brazil. How amazing is that?
Yeah, we're like the definition of Leonardo DiCaprio. Just, I know that guy. I know him. And it's so insane. And like you said, hardworking, but just hilarious. Shout out to Pete. Happy for him. And I hope the trajectory just continues up only.
Total package. Shout out Pete. Again, cannot wait to watch that kickoff on Friday night as well. Going to be a fun one. Jake, you're back in the clock in round 2. What's got you excited about week 1?
I mean, I'm going to go with the league environment with this. I'm going to go with the interpersonal interaction and say seeing a league mate tilt in the league chat for the first time. It is a tradition unlike any other. The first time that there is an egregious fumble, if somebody, God forbid, gets injured, we don't want to wish that out there, but whatever causes it, I just love to see the meltdown happen in real time. And that's when I really know that football is back.
Cooter, it is a situation where, let's face it, we all have our ups and downs throughout a fantasy season. And yeah, guess what? We can't win the championship every year, but it is the group chat that keeps us coming back. Because to Jake's point, when you get your friends just completely crashing out, I mean, there's nothing quite like it.
Oh, it's incredible. It's the best part. Like, winning is just in the background sometimes. I just need the group chat to go off. I need somebody to absolutely crash out. So Jake, this is a good one. This is a good pick.
Cooter, back on the clock. Who you got in round 2?
Oh, all right, guys. I thought y'all might have taken this from me, but that first NFL meme, like whatever it ends up being, we know we've seen Will Levis and all his shenanigans. We've seen the Aaron Rodgers with the helmet half off his face. Whatever it ends up being this week, it's going to be viral for at least 48 hours, and that's going to be fun. So, I can't go without it. I need that first viral NFL meme.
It is so fun too on the Thursday and Friday night games where, we're just able to really appreciate the game. But then commercials and stuff, everyone goes to their phone. It's just, instant reactions and everything going on. And Jake, there will, of course, be some memorable memes out there. But I would like to think, Jake, can we just have a safe space for live game tweeting? Okay. It's not the time to be rational. It's not the time to be right. Stuff's going to change in the next 15 minutes. Spare me the whole, this aged poorly when we're live tweeting during a game. Is that too much to ask, Jake?
No, that is what should be required during that stretch. Every other time, I'm fine with that. I understand, especially when we're making real predictions and projections on this sort of thing. But let us live in the moment a little bit. And look, I'll call myself out when I say something dumb 15 minutes after, but let me have the 15 minutes first. The love of all that is good.
Live in the moment, indeed. Shout out Portugal, the man. Cooter, you have one more pick. That was a good one in round 2. I would say that's the biggest steal so far. Who's your third and final pick?
Before I give you this third one, to Jake's point, don't you want your X or Twitter analysts to be fans of the game? That's the whole point. We're enjoying this together in the moment as a collective. So that's my 2 cents there. All right, moving on to my third pick. This is just based on the narrative of the offseason. We all know what happened. That first tush push is going to hit so good, injected into my veins right now. I need it. It's on Thursday night. You know it's going to happen. And I'm right here and saying, look, if any of the Eagles staff is listening, we need 2 Jalen Hurts tush push touchdowns just to solidify that they won on that vote in the offseason. And it's going to be so good.
Speaking of memes, we're not going to see the Cowboys do it on Thursday night, but if we get a Bills-Eagles game, I think we actually have that in week 17 this year. I'm so ready, Cooter, to use the, Snape, you dare use my own spells against me, Potter. If we can see someone tush-push against the Eagles, come on, how would that not be fantastic television there? Jake, what's your opinion on the tush-push? Because I believe your team that you appreciate very cowardly wanted it to be outlawed. Do you stand with the Packers?
Yeah. I get it. It was dumb. It was weak sauce by the Green Bay Packers. I'm personally happy that they kept the tush push because I'm of the belief that, you want to stop it, stop it. And if you can't, stop complaining about it. But it would be pretty funny to see them tush push 6 times in the opener. I want to see it get overused in that opener against the Cowboys personally.
It did get stopped in Columbus, Ohio last Saturday. Sucks to suck, Arch Manning, horns down. Jake, you're back on the clock. Round 3. You've gone sound of opening kickoff on Thursday Night Football and league mates tilting in the group chat. What is your third and final pick?
I didn't know if this would be there waiting for me, but I'm glad it is. I'm going to go with any late round draft pick popping off in week 1. Those performances that, as we were mentioning, as you were talking about with Matthew Berry earlier, the ones that kind of come out of nowhere. I'm thinking of Isaiah Likely last year. I'm thinking of Alex Pierce even last year. It's going to happen. We don't know exactly who it's going to be. My 2 cents, I would like to see my dude Cedric Tillman and Woody Marks be those guys. But all it's going to take is 1 single touchdown. They don't got to go over the moon. I don't need them to get 30 points. I just want to see some late round love.
We're so plugged in at this point, Cooter, that I don't think we're going to see a big game from a guy we basically never heard of. But from Phillip Lindsay to James Robinson, there will be day 3 or even undrafted guys making big splashes, and then it just throws the whole fantasy community into a whirlwind out there. So, yeah, this is a pretty good call by Jake, I must admit, Cooter.
I would agree. It's part because you want your league mates to run to the waiver wire and be like, oh, I need this guy. And they see that you already have him. That in its own right, even if they never text you about it, just feels good. But then you don't feel bad about taking them and keeping them on your roster. And the only problem, Jake, is whenever you can't let go because that week 1 just hit so good and they never do it again,
True. It's a good
My
point.
third and final pick here in our 3-down draft, ladies and mostly gentlemen, is the fact that games are on at bars again. I don't have to pretend like I want to talk to people or meet new people. I can watch the game in peace and not be viewed as a crazy loner person. Okay? Jokes aside, I get it. It's fine talking to human beings and everything. But Jake, when we were at a bar on Friday night, man, I want a game where I can all of a sudden say, look at that. Or if I'm in an awkward conversation, I can just watch the game and ignore everything other than these guys having constant car crashes with a ball that is not even round. Is that too much to ask, Jake?
No, it's the social lubricant that sometimes we need out there. You just need a little bit of a distraction. And look, there's commercial breaks. You can still pop in and out of conversation, right? There's lulls in the game, but absolutely, you're going to need something on that TV, maybe a beverage in hand, maybe some wings in front of you, whatever you want to do. But I'm all for this.
Cooter, I'm not sure if Louisiana is Central Time or Eastern Time, but what do West Coast people do like without games on at night? I mean, that's one of my top reasons why I'd never want to move out there.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're central here, and the time zone's pretty good. And then when you have, or should I say, I'm sorry, pretty good. And then whenever you have those morning games, that's when it really is just perfect.
Oh my gosh, don't get me going on some of those European matchups. I'm sure we'll be here before too long. So for those that missed it, again, Cooter, Rashid Shaheed's first touchdown, the first viral NFL meme, and first tush push. Jake has the sound of the opening kickoff on Thursday Night Football. League mates tilting in the group chat and late round picks popping off. I love the Manning cast. Peter Overzet covering the Brazil game and games being back on at the bars. Our favorite things about week one. Feel free to let us know any that we might have missed down there in the comments. But wanted to wrap this up again with a quick shout out to our presenting sponsor here, our friends over at GoPuff, because guys could be in a situation soon where it's Sunday morning and you have your lineups set before the games kick off, but then you remember you don't have any snacks or beer stocked up for a day of football. Don't worry though, we've got you covered to keep your snack stash stocked with the GoPuff app. Beer, snacks, and groceries delivered in as fast as 15 minutes, and you can get 60% off your first order with code FantasyLife60 only at GoPuff. With the first Wednesday of week one, we have our first practice reports of week one, finally putting some actual designations to the sort of injuries that we've been tracking throughout the offseason. So again, it is just Wednesday. We're not to be panicking about limited practices just yet. We'll get our official designations. And also myself and Matthew Friedman will be here Friday afternoon to try to break down, again, the most updated information possible. Also invite you guys to check out the injury roundup, which will be live on every Friday over at fantasylife.com. With that said, guys, some big news. Starting off with that aforementioned Friday night game between the Chargers and Chiefs. Najee Harris, despite only having one functional eye, allegedly is confirmed to play on this Friday night. Jim Harbaugh himself went ahead and confirmed that news. So it is a situation, guys, where when I look at just Najee's projection, before all this madness happened and all these fireworks went bad and everything, I really just think that when you look at Najee, very similar profile to someone like Ramondre Stevenson or even J.K. Dobbins, okay? Yes, the rookie running back involved is going to be the lead back. I don't think we're doubting that. But Jake, it's a situation where, similar to David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, we always consider, understandably, like what if the old, boring veteran gets injured and then the rookie and the younger guy can go ahead and have these great games. God forbid, Marion Hampton, let's say he wins the lottery and says, I'm taking the rest of the year off. Najee Harris will be on the cover of every single waiver wire article, and for good reason. That dude would be getting fed.
Absolutely. Now, I know that the coaching staff has come out and said, they don't do workhorses anymore. And the day of the one running back taking every rep, that's gone the way of prehistoric creatures or whatever the actual quote was. But when you only have, Hassan Haskins, no disrespect to him, back there on the depth chart behind these guys, there would be an opportunity for Najee Harris. Honestly, Najee Harris back, I do think it's an important thing because Omarion Hampton, early on in the season, I was worried that we weren't going to get to see full Hampton until, midway through the season. And I do think that Harris being back is going to push him back just a little bit. So obviously not like you can't start Hampton. You could probably start Harris too, frankly, in week one, but I'd temper expectations for both.
Yeah, for Harris, I'd especially like to see what this actual role looks like. Maybe they only want to have him out there for a few touches, given his lack of practice experience. But we do still have Hampton as a consensus top 20 running back over at fantasylife.com. Again, if you drafted Omarion Hampton, Mr. Ride or Die himself, very likely that you will be finding a spot for him in your starting lineups. Cooter, good news out of Miami. We do have Devon Achane, despite being limited in practice with a calf injury. He is expecting to play. Mike McDaniel actually said he should be able to play. Achane confirmed that he does feel 100%. So I just love Devon Achane because even for being, this undersized player, I just go back to that week 2 Thursday night game last year, had the high ankle sprain on Sunday, gutted it out, and then we just got that big old thumbs up from him a drive or two into the game. So wheels up for Mr. Devon Achane. Cooter, how are we feeling?
Look, I'm feeling good. Like I just said in the start of the show, I'm so high on Ollie Gordon just because of the excitement of having that rookie on my bench. But I want Achane to have a good season. All I needed was for him to say he feels 100% for me to be locked in. And look, they're playing against the Colts, so it may not be one of those games where they're just like shucking him the ball a million times. But that's okay. Like he's the guy. It's going to be fine. All I needed was his reassurance, and he gave it to me. So I'm ready to rock and roll, Ian.
Fun prop bet for those into those kind of things. Pat Mayo actually gave me this shout out. I believe Devon Achane's first quarter receiving line is only 3.5 yards. Look, I think Mike McDaniel is going to be designing a screen or something for this dude in their opening script. You telling me Achane can't gain 4 or 5 yards on it? I love that call, over 3.5 receiving yards for Devon Achane. If it's wrong, go ahead and blame Pat Mayo, not me, but I will gladly take the credit if things work out my way. But final point on this, guys, again, we've had 2 backfields, only 2 since 2011 actually enable not 1, but 2 top 12 running backs in the same season. I believe it was the 2017 Saints with Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, and yes, the 2023 Dolphins with Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. So it doesn't need to be Achane or Ollie Gordon. The answer very well could just be yes, start them both by some point in the season. Jake, we also have some varying good news on Falcons wide receiver Darnell Mooney, someone who, don't look now, had more receiving yards than Drake London through the first 14 games of last season. Now, they were both in the top 10, and I'm not trying to say Mooney's going to be threatening London as the wide receiver 1. Also, the difference between Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins and how they're going to be going about things. But Mooney was someone really falling throughout drafts throughout August as he dealt with that shoulder injury. Had a weird comment, I believe, from Zach Robinson as well. I'm just saying they weren't exactly sure when he was going to be back. Well, he already is back and limited at practice. So still considered day-to-day per head coach Raheem Morris. So we'll see what happens there. Not Zach Robinson, OC. Excuse me on that one. But Jake, thoughts on Darnell Mooney and kind of what your expectations are for a guy that very well could be breezing past triple-digit targets if the Falcons really do go full Penix this year?
Yeah, I don't think we talk enough about how ideal of a flex play Darnell Mooney is. I think he gets overshadowed by guys like Devontae Smith and the like, where they can bust off big games. But that's what I want in my flex. I don't even need the sense of security. Darnell Mooney has a little bit of that, but I just want to chase that upside, and he has a ton of it. And going back to his days in Chicago, it's always been better when he is playing as the 1B or the 2 wide receiver rather than the 1A guy. So Drake London's still going to feast. I think especially in week 1 against Tampa Bay, could be a low-key shootout on the horizon between these two teams. And yeah, I know we didn't get to see a lot of Darnell Mooney with Michael Penix, but he was still solid in those few games that we actually got to see last year.
I've thought throughout the offseason that Christian Kirk could be a good kind of this year's version of Darnell Mooney, that guy priced as a wide receiver 5 in fantasy who winds up messing around and turning in a wide receiver 3 year. But given how much Mooney's price tag actually dropped, maybe this year's version of Darnell Mooney is just Darnell Mooney. How funny would that be, guys? Cooter, some bad news, though. We do have Jaden Reed now actively not practicing as he is playing through this Liz Frank foot injury. Not great. Also have Dontavian Wicks limited with a calf injury. Even third-round pick Savion Williams also limited with a hamstring. The good news is that Jordan Love and that left thumb issue really isn't an issue. He is practicing in full. But, Cooter, if you had to pick between, Matthew Golden, Romeo Doubs, Tucker Kraft, is there one of these Packers players you expect to step up if Jaden Reed is going to be sidelined or just hobbled while he's out there?
I mean, they had worse luck at the wide receiver with injuries in the past 2 to 3 years than any other team at this point. I'm looking at Matthew Golden just because he's the new guy out there. He's got the talent, and they're going to have to throw the ball to somebody. Of course, Kraft is going to get some looks as well, but I just feel for Jake, you Packers players, because all your wide receivers just can't seem to stay healthy. I don't know what's going on over there.
Need a new strength and conditioning coach in Green Bay, you guys. I don't know what's going on.
They can't catch the ball when they are out there, Jake, and now they're having a tough time even doing that. So I think Cooter's spot on with Matthew Golden. I already have him ranked as the wide receiver 34 this week. That's the highest of any fantasy life ranker. But Jake, don't you think that just kind of the way they get Jaden Reed involved, and look, I'm not saying Tucker Kraft's could be getting some of the rush attempts that Jaden Reed gets, although he does sometimes get those tush-push opportunities, but wouldn't you actually almost expect Kraft to be the guy where we see LaFleur's magic trying to get him some of those yak hitters? Because that seems to be the piece of the offense that could be missing if Reed is sidelined. And man, they don't make him much scarier than Tucker Kraft with the football in his hands.
They don't. I'm glad that you mentioned that because the dude does deserve his props. He is turning into a George Kittle light kind of tight end, soon to be a full-on George Kittle, I think. So yeah, I would love to see Tucker Kraft this week pop off. I don't know that we're going to see him get 10 targets or anything like that, but he don't need them because he is a yak master, as you mentioned. So I would love to see a Tucker Kraft touchdown, but I'm also in on Matthew Golden. I would like to see sort of a revisitation of the Christian Watson first game, that first target where Aaron Rodgers hit him deep and then he dropped it. But this time, Golden actually catches it and doesn't piss off his quarterback for the foreseeable future.
I forgot how rough of a career starter that was for Christian Watson. What could have been? Hopefully we'll see him get some reclamation here around week 10 or 11 once he is back in the lineup. Few other notes, guys. Juwan Jennings is expected to play week 1 per Kyle Shanahan despite his calf and contract issues. That is great news. He is instantly back in that wide receiver 3 conversation for as long as Brandon Ayuk is going to be sidelined. Malik Neighbors, Josh Downs, not listed on the injury report despite being banged up a bit throughout the preseason. Love to see that. Also, Khalil Shakur with that ankle injury practicing in full. That is great. Keon Coleman, however, is limited with a groin injury. That is not great. Again, just Wednesday. Hopefully he's full on Thursday, not even listed by the end of the week. But Keon Coleman, someone who I have probably drafted an irresponsible amount this year, already being banged up. Don't love to see that. Also want to note that Mike Gesicki had a hamstring injury throughout August. He is actually not listed on the injury report. Again, if you are in a deep league and need some tight end help, I think there's a non-0% chance that we do see Gesicki emerge as Joe Burrow's number 3 pass game option. That is pretty tough to beat at the tight end position. Also, we'll say Stephon Diggs with the knee issue says he hopes he is not on a snap count. I don't love that he's kind of wondering about that, but at least he will be active. Probably would like to wait a week if possible before trying to slot him into starting fantasy lineups. And finally, in another example of not being able to trust a single thing Todd Bowles says about injuries, Cade Otton with his groin issue is limited in practice and potentially could be ready to go for this weekend. We're also ready to go here on the Fantasy Life Show. We appreciate you tuning in, though, guys. So if you like the show, please like the show, subscribe, comment, all those things if you're into that as well. So for Cooter, for Jake, for producer Matt, for producer Kelsey, I'm Ian. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, take care, everybody.